believe reality is. In their reality, a witch is a green-faced hag that's made a pact with the devil, and any number of a bunch of things that are equally not true. And another one of these assumptions, for instance, is often Darwin's theory of evolution is often taught as if it has been proven fact, when in fact, such is not the case at all. In the course of many of these videos, I have been showing you that a lot of things that you have taken for granted as being the way things aren't really so. They have been contrived to be so. And that the evidence of what I'm saying is true can be found in any halfway decent anthropology department in any college or within the realms of archaeology and stuff. You just have to get past the church-made experts on witchery and the experts on just how everything came about, because the scientists that promote the theory of evolution as if it is fact have based their findings on a lot of assumptions, things they've been taking on faith. And like I said, in the course of this, I'm going to show you some things. I'm going to talk about some things. And I challenge you to look up the things that I talk about in these videos, the words that I mention. For instance, being a witch, you might also find it amusing that I actually believe in little people. Now, am I a little bit dotty? Or do I have some scientific basis for what I'm saying? Well, as usual, there's always a lot more to me than you're readily going to get in the first. I'd like to introduce you to Lilalu Ibu. Okay? She is a very interesting individual. See, she is a Hobbit. Yeah, that's right. Homo florensis is the name. She comes from an island called Florence in Indonesia. Another little word you might want to look up sometime is called Ibu Gogo. Ibu spelled I-B-U. This little woman's name is Lilalu Ibu, meaning grandmother Lilalu. She is an older woman. I'm very gently trying to pull her out of this case. She is a very unusual person because I'd like you to take a look here. This is, in my own hands, the size of this skull is, okay, or next to my own skull, okay. This is a very, very small person, and if you look carefully at her jaw, you'll find our girl, whoops, well, with the exception of those two that just dropped out, I haven't taken the time to, she has a complete collection of teeth. And if you can, you see there's maybe just a couple pinpoint cavities, but she's kept all her teeth with the exception that of those two that have just dropped out. There's nothing to hold them in place anymore. Yeah, but this woman here, when fully grown, was only about 3 feet tall. She was not a midget or a dwarf. She was a 3 foot tall, perfectly formed, I want to say human being, but she's not human. She is not one of our ancestors. In fact, this woman here is fairly recent, and she is a Hobbit-human hybrid. And incidentally, there are a lot of those throughout Southeast Asia. Most of them are a little taller than her, about 4 foot tall. They qualify as pygmies. Yeah, but generally, they are those that have interbred with hobbits. Ibugogu has a quite a different shape of skull. This is more after her human ancestry than her hobbit ancestry, though the size is of the hobbit ancestry. Homo florensis is the name again. It, she There's an interesting story. You can find a BBC documentary, or BBC or Horizon, I can't remember. The British made a video, a documentary of a cave that was excavated in Florence, in the island of Florence, and they found their first hobbit skeleton. And the Darwinian scientists in this video were adamant that it had to be a freak or a microencephalic child or something like that. Problem being, we have a full set of teeth, all 32. That means wisdom teeth. This person is older. This woman, when she died, was at least in her 50s. She has the full complement of teeth. If you could look at them very closely, I don't know how well you can see that, but that is almost ground flat from years of use, years of chewing. And like I said, she has the full complement of her teeth. She kind of came to us by a rather unusual means. I am actually her caretaker. This is all that we know of that is left of this particular woman, and to be separated from their head is not a good thing, even in death. So I'm kind of the caretaker of this particular skull. But the thing I want to point to you as is, if your view of reality is that you descended from monkeys, Australopithecus, Neanderthals. Neanderthals are not necessarily your ancestors. There are some of us that all that's left of the Neanderthals are those that had interbred with humans and still survive to this day. And you can still find people with the Neanderthal genetic markers in their system. They are not human. They are not where we came from. This is not to say they're not people. This is to say they are not Homo sapiens as you or I, or Cro-Magnon, depending on the terminology you want to use. If Tolkien and Lewis wrote about orcs and dwarves and trolls and hobbits and elves, suppose, as just about every culture on earth suggests, suppose such things existed. But where's the scientific evidence, you might say? I might say that the scientific evidence has been in front of you all the time, but it's been purposely interpreted to be that this is some relative between an ape and a man or something else. Interesting thing, in Genesis chapter 6, it talks of hybrid humans. For those of you with a Judeo-Christian background, humans that intermarried with something else. You ever wonder, if Adam and Eve were kind of like the first humans, and that when the boys left home, what did they mate with? Their sisters? Or did they find something else? Now, I've had some say, well, they mated with monkeys, and it's like, I don't think so. For one, monkeys and humans, though they say that they share, like a chimpanzee shares like 98% of the DNA of a normal human being, the gestation times are different. There is no human-chimp hybrids. But these other creatures, these angelic creatures you find in Genesis chapter 6, and these other non-human entities have existed alongside man throughout history, and every culture has recorded them. But the scholars of today want to look into the past and say, that is mythology. That's not so. They were ignorant. They weren't as sophisticated and as intelligent as we are today. Well, me and my little friend are looking at you, reminding you quite clearly, this woman died in our lifetime. She's only been dead about 20 years or so. This is a human hobbit hybrid. 3 feet tall, fully grown, Like I says, we're not talking about a dwarf or a midget, somebody that's got a big head and small little stubby arms. I'm talking about a perfectly formed human being half your size, the size of a toddler, size of a 3-year-old, but fully grown. This woman here, like I said, was over 50. So here's just a little something to challenge your reality with. I suggest you check up a lot of things that I say in these videos. Google them. I'll supply the names and the spellings for stuff. You can check for yourself. The information is there. It always has been. It's just nobody's going to look for it if they don't know what to look for. And I thank you very much for joining me tonight. For over 13 centuries, we've lived among you in the safety of anonymity. Witches are unknown in your modern world, until now.